Hello, everyone. You are welcome once again to today's lesson. And in today's lesson, we are going to have a very short one, a brief one. And we are going to look at the solution to the assignment that was given in our previous lesson on polynomial function. In fact, our last lesson on polynomial function. And this was the assignment. Okay, so what do we have? If x minus 3 all squared is a factor of this polynomial, okay, where p and q are constants, okay, first of all, we are supposed to find the values of p and q, and hence we are supposed to find the third factor. Okay, so anytime a question is given on polynomial function and you are required to find the third factor, I told you, though you possibly have three ways of dealing with it, okay, I advise, if possible, use the identity approach. Okay, however, this question in effect restricted us to that approach because if you look at the information here for the divisor, we have a repeated, divisor or repeated factor, x minus 3, x minus 3. So if you want to use the simultaneous equation to find the values of p and q, forgive me, it will not work because you generate only one equation with two unknowns, which will not make it possible to find the two unknowns. So with this one, whether you like it or not, we are supposed to, by experience we know, we are supposed to use the identity approach. So as usual, anytime you read questions, okay, remember I said make it a habit to underline your salient parts. And by so doing, okay, you are planning to protect your marks. So if you read the question, at least I know that what I have here is a factor. So as I can choose to underline this one or not, but this one strictly must be underlined. Take notes. Okay, hence, it means your second part of the question, when you are concluding, we should see the hence there. Okay, so as usual, after underlining the salient part, the first thing that you write is solution. Okay, so in your answer booklet, the first thing that you write is solution. Okay, don't straight away come and extract, write solution first. Okay, so you always separate the question from what? Your solution. Okay, basically. So you extract. This polynomial didn't come with a name. However, usually we name polynomials, and we name polynomials because we know we are going to feed that polynomial so that it will be easy for us to explain when we are changing our inputs. Okay, from the original x to another or any other number. However, here with this polynomial function, we won't feed it with anything. So if you don't label it, no issues. Okay, so that's the more reason why you can see that I didn't write let, though it didn't come with a name. I didn't write let. I've told you, okay, the young will know the rules. However, the elderly and the wise will always, know the exception. So now this is a clear exception. You can choose not to label, or name your polynomial. So you extract your polynomial, cubic polynomial for that matter. And I realize that this will not go there. If it will go here, you continue with that. Okay, I decided to come down. And so this is a factor. You are given a quadratic factor, but it came as a repeated linear factor. Okay, however, if you expand, you get this. And you should be able to expand a binomial squared without any struggles because of the identity. At this point, we should all know this identity. A, minus b squared. Okay, if you expand, we should all know that to give us our first term a squared minus twice the product of a and b, the first and the second, then plus what? Your second term squared of your binomial squared. You should know that if it is plus, this will be plus. Okay, however, if you don't know, don't come and show, don't come and write x minus 3. We know is the same as squared is the same as x minus 3 times x minus 3. Then you come and expand, combine like terms. Then you bring your, or import your result here. However, that will be a problem for those who cannot expand straight away. Okay, so for those of us who can expand straight away, we will save time and space as well, indirectly. Okay, however, so like I said, this will give you your a, your b is 3, your a. So a squared, s squared, minus twice the product of what? A and b. So the product of a and b, which will be 3x times 2, 6x, then plus what? The b squared. So b is 3, so 3 squared will give you 9. Immediately you get this expansion, wrong, you are doomed. So you have to be very careful with this expansion. If it becomes necessary to deal with it the crude way, the traditional way of expanding, go do that. Okay, rather than going through the matured way and getting it wrong. It's better to play it safe always. Okay, so now what do we have at this point? You know, you've been given a cubic polynomial and now also a divisor, which is what? A factor, a quadratic divisor for that matter. So we know that if I divide a cubic polynomial by a quadratic, okay, denominator, okay, or divisor, in this case a factor, I will get a linear quotient. So in this case, the linear quotient, remember we said, will be our third factor. So I can say that let the third factor be equal to, it will be of a linear form, and every linear expression will be AS plus B of this form. A has not been used, B has not been used. So we'll go for our usual AS plus B. Okay, then comma A not equal to 0. Be careful with this. Okay, you need to state it, okay, to indirectly indicate your maturity in maths. Okay, so at this point, we know for a fact that every polynomial, which is your dividend, should be identical to or should be equal to the product of what? The quotient and the divisor. Okay, plus the remainder. But because our divisor here, okay, is a factor, our remainder will be 0. So it means your polynomial will be equal to the product of the divisor and the quotient. Okay, so here I decided to write the quotient first, okay, followed by the divisor. Remember, multiplication is commutative, and I said, okay, I usually want to write my factors with the least number of terms first. So this factor contains 2 terms. I'll write that one first. The other factor, the ones they are multiplying, I'm not using factor in the sense that, okay, that's a factor of this. But in any case, this is, I can also say that my quotient will be a factor of this. That's why we said a third factor. So these two will be with the factors of this. So if I use factors, it implies indeed the usual factors. Okay, so but any numbers multiplying will be considered as factors. Okay, so this is my first factor, binomial factor, a trinomial factor. Please make sure, okay, you can see the marks there. I'm not mentioning the marks because they are obviously attached, so you can see. So if you extract this B half, you come and extract this one to B half, you expand, you get your M1. Okay, come and state this, let's. This is very critical, and because you are starting a sentence, please, the let should be capital letter. Okay, don't think because this is smart you can write anything. It's supposed to be a capital letter. So let the third factor be this. That will be B1. It's a statement of facts, okay, that you are making, okay, or a representation that you are making. Then what do? But I've stated this already. So this one will give you B1.5. And after that, you come and expand and combine like terms. So if you expand this, it will give you M1. Okay, you combine like terms, you are going to get M1. And the like terms, this is how you combine. Some of you, okay, your problem started from here. Okay, so at this point, please take note, you can use the equal to here. I've said because letters are involved, it will be ideal you use the identity or the identical, okay, sign. So what do? Only one term in S cubed, you write that one, 2 terms in S squared, so we are going to combine. However, remember this term, the coefficient is positive, the coefficient is negative, so I'll write plus, come and write the positive coefficient first, B, then minus the 6a, then in brackets S squared. Okay, then I have the 2 terms in X as well, 2 linear terms. So this one, my first term here, the 9a is positive, this is negative, so I'll write the 9a first. Okay, then minus 6b, then x, then only one constant term. So that one will also give you M1. Then now that you've expanded combined like terms, we are more than capable of comparing what's the coefficient. So you write comparing coefficients. Okay, then you can see that throughout your presentation here, there is no line that should be left, okay, not attended to. So there shouldn't be any spaces between your steps because you are not moving from a sub question to the other. So those of you who did that, okay, there will be a penalty because I've been saying this times without number. So let me continue. We'll come to the penalties. So the comparing the S cube. Okay, this is the S cube term. You compare it with this. The coefficient here is 1. Coefficient here is A. Usually I said I'll write the A first. So A is equal to 1 or 1 is equal to A if you want to write it that way. Then the coefficient of S squared. Okay, the coefficient of S squared here is P. Okay, this one is B minus 6A. All contains letters. However, this is a monomial, okay, coefficient. This is a binomial coefficient. So I prefer to write the monomial coefficient first. Is equal to my binomial coefficient. Then the coefficient of X, which is S to the power 1. okay, will be, for this one, this side, it is 9 minus 6b. For this side, it is what? 3. So remember, I said if I have a constant and variables, whether I have 10 variables, once I have a constant, I'll always write the variables first. Okay, so my variables 9a minus 6b will be equal to what? 3. However, I will not end here because remember I said you'll be labeling this equation. Before you label your equation, make sure if you can reduce. Okay, some of you didn't reduce, but no problem. You end up getting the same result. However, if I reduce, my work will be easier going forward because I'll be dealing with smaller values. So if you reduce, because you can reduce, 3 is a factor to all the terms here. So you divide by 3. You don't show your division because one side contains more than a term. It was a term on each side, and you show. You write again, then you divide. So otherwise, you do the division mentally, which I've done here. Then x to the power 0, okay, here, this is q, this is 9b. So q will be equal to what? 9b. Okay, so at that point, you've extracted all your coefficients, simplify the one that you need to simplify, so you can now come and label your equations 1, 2, 3, and what? And 4. Or as you write them, you label them. So immediately you compare and you write this equation 1. You write this equation 2. This you can't label because you have to simplify before you label equation 3, then equation 4. I guess my point is well made so far. And look at the marks attached as well. So each equation that you get, okay, you are going to generate it will be m half. Now, okay, we studied the equations critically. This is where, again, okay, most of you, your problem started. Okay, you were able to compare the coefficient, extract carefully, but this one deviated from the usual one that we dealt with. Okay, however, not very much. Okay, so listen to the equations. Okay, look at the ones that you can easily work on. Okay, so if I look at this equation, okay, let me see. Okay, equation 3 involves A and B. Meanwhile, I know A. So if I substitute A, I can find the B. Okay, so it means I can find the B from this equation, what? Equation 3. Okay, so what do? I will go and substitute equation 1 into equation 3. And I've told you, don't write substituting, don't write putting. Okay, as for put and substitute, that one is a taboo. You don't write it. Okay, if you want to write it, make it continuous, substituting, okay, putting, but I've told you it's not necessary. Just come and write your equation number into the other equation that you want to substitute. Just write it this way. And this will always be too short to take a line. Okay, I don't know why still some of you are doing that. I've advised you severally times with that number. So don't let this take one line, comma, come and do your substitution. Whatever would have come down here, let it continue. And when you are writing the s cube, you are comparing, please, it's not s cube is equal to. It's s cube, either you use any of the punctuation marks. Okay, either comma, semicolon, but usually we use semicolon or colon. Okay, or even comma, but like I said, usually I will advise you use what? The colon instead of the semicolon or the comma. Okay, but not equal to, it is not. You don't use it. Okay, that's just by the way, because I saw it, I just remember that I saw it in someone's presentation. So I have never done that, so please don't do that too. Okay, so you come and substitute. If you substitute, you are going to get 3, your A is 1. So 3 into 1 minus 2B is equal to, okay, 1. Okay, so this will give you, after your substitution, will give you m half. Okay, you simplify this will give you 3 minus 2b is equal to an m half. Then now you move this 2b here. Someone can keep it here, move this one and divide by negative. I always want to avoid negative, if possible, at the initial stages. So that's why I moved this one to the side. So I'll get 2b is equal to 2 or 2 is equal to 2b. I write it again, divide by 2. So m half. I will end up getting b is equal to 1. But I will need b to find my q. Okay, so, and also to find my p together with the a. But I can easily, okay, find q. So I will do the ones that I can easily find first before I move on to the complex, okay, or the one that will involve a little more work. So now I will write equation 5. I will label, because I will need b, the value of b. I will label it, okay, as equation 5, and go and write equation 5 into equation 4 to find my q. So that will give me q is equal to what? 9 into 1, which will give me q is equal to what? 9. So m half, your substitution, your simplification, or your answer gives you a half. Okay, then at this point, what do? We are now left with only the value for P. But if I want to get P, okay, I have to substitute the values of A and B. So A is from equation 1, B is from what? Equation 5. So I'll go and write equation 1 and equation 5 into equation 2. So that will give me P is equal to 1 minus 6 into 1. So your substitution will give you M half. And someone can move from here to here because this number in bracket is a special number, 1 or 0. So you can always do this mentally. So that will give us, so this step here is not a critical step. Okay, we can move from here to this straight away. So this is where the max is. So your P is equal to minus 5. Okay, so if you had your conclusion drawn here, after finding your Q, you wrote therefore here, then you have to give yourself 1 mark here. So the half mark that will be given for in your conclusion will come here as well. So it will be A1. Okay, if you concluded with your P here, therefore P is equal to this. This will not be A half, it will be A1. So that you don't do that. But those of you didn't conclude and you are now going to conclude, okay, your half mark will be here and together it will give you A1. So that will be it for your values of P and Q. Okay, now the second part, remember, hence, okay, once you know the letters, okay, A and B, the values of A and B, you know your third factor. So you can draw your conclusion, and your conclusion should be hence. There shouldn't be any therefore here, except when you are drawing your first conclusion. It's only direct questions that you conclude with. Otherwise, no. Hence is conclusion, therefore it's also used for conclusion. So hence, x plus 1, because your A is what? 1. You don't write 1x and end there, please. If you write that, okay, it is right, but you disclose your immaturity, okay, in maths. You bring your immaturity in maths to bear. So avoid that. 1 is simply understood to be there. Then plus what? 1, because your B is also 1 and is equal to the third factor. Okay, so in all, the total marks will be what? 15 marks. Okay, if you have any questions, okay, if you presented your solution differently and you'd want to know how best you can, okay, you should be marked. Okay, please take note. And the order in which we found our letters here, especially the P, the Q, and the B, okay, it doesn't really matter. Okay, however, all the volume of work there will be the same. Okay, Prof. Della?
I think you've answered my question. I was going to ask that the comparing coefficients, the x raised to the power 1, what if you made B the subject?
If you made B the subject.
Yes, please.
Oh, you have your plan. So that's exactly what I said. Okay, you should have the equations here. However, you know your plan that you are going to use to solve your equation. But that's why I said the volume of work will basically be the same. You
Yes,
get it?
yes, please.
Okay, the order in which we find them and how you find them doesn't really matter, provided you get the same values or you don't defy any mathematical principle.
Okay.
Okay, great. So please mark, and I've told you, indicate your total score over, okay, your score over the total score on top of your first page before you capture and send it back to me to go through and do professional marking for you. Take notes. So if you had 15, then it will be 15 over 15. If you had 14, write 14 over 15 on top of your first page. Okay, and it should be clearly and boldly written. Okay, so on that note, if you don't have any further questions, okay, this will be it for the solution to the assignment. Thank you very much. God bless us all.